Willkommen zu der letzten halben Stunde des Startup Days, bevor es dann weitergeht mit unserem Get Together.
So everybody's back and wide awake. So we move on to the final half hour of our startup roundtable. Now we've got an absolute high end of the travel industry. Every company has written kind of chapters in the history books. Every company has been a game changer in terms of the startup stage, and they've almost left the startup stage again. They can't be really called startups anymore. HomeToGo. Patrick, CEO, is here. And, HomeToGo. Patrick, Andrä, you've got a business law background, and we can really look forward to that. On the other hand, you also have a rocket background, and you learned how you implement everything ever so fast, ever so quickly. In the meantime, you are an employer to 150 people at HomeToGo. So just tell us one or two words about your motivation. What's your driver? Why did you go out there and say, I want to start something on my own? Well, I'm the founder of HomeToGo, together with my two co-founders, Axel and Wolfgang Heigl. And Wolfgang Heigl is a familiar face for many of people because he founded Swoodoo, which then sold on to Kayak. And back then we said, well, actually, when people go and rent a holiday home or holiday apartment, they're faced with a very heterogeneous market. There's lots of different providers. The market is very fragmented, much more fragmented than hotels or flights. There's a plethora of different providers. The market is unprofessional. And it's not just the sheer number of holiday homes and apartments which you can compare is overwhelming, but also in terms of price differentials. Maybe you see it on one portal and you see the apartment on another portal, so you don't really know whether you got the best price. So aggregation is a major advantage for the user. The price comparison or the rate comparison is another advantage, and also other add-on features like individual data searches, etc. And that was the idea behind it, helping individual people finding their right home to go. Not always having the opportunity, if I had only booked this, that, or the other offer. So Johannes is sitting next to him, CEO of GetYourGuide. Well, I know GetYourGuide from the CIR event, from the startup competition. And you left university. You were a young university graduate, founded that company. In the meantime, you have 300 FTE. You skyrocketed, And how did you handle that exponential growth? How did you achieve it? I mean, that's like a rocket star. Actually, we are employing more than 400 people. But I think GetYourGuide, well, we shouldn't overrate it. In the early stages where you as a founder are everything, jack of all trades, so you're operational in the business, you need to do fundraising and you need to recruit new people. That is definitely the trickier stage than when you're larger or employ 400 people who jointly develop and build the business together with you. I think just the sheer number of people doesn't increase complexity of your business. I mean, quite on the contrary, I think my life is much more relaxed than many years ago. Okay, that's a strong statement. And then we've got GoEuro. They look at accommodation. Malte Cherdron is the COO. And now you also look at transportation. Malte, you founded GoEuro, but in the back you've got a lot of a very strong background. McKinsey, StudiVZ, which is like crossing in Germany. And you are an outsider, a kind of, horizontal, person coming in. So innovation comes from everywhere to the tourism industry. That's not unusual. So how did you get a foot in the door in this industry? It all started back then, 5 or 6 years ago. I was an Indian living in the US, and he did backpacking across Europe, and he came to the conclusion actually traveling in Europe is so easy, and public transport takes you right to the last one-horse village, contrary to other continents. But on the other hand, you still need to do research on your hotel. Where does the bus leave? How do I get the ticket? And at the end of the day, I queue up and buy a piece of paper just to make sure that the coach driver lets me get on the bus. And you can do a better job. I mean, back then when I started, it was 2003. In the meantime, it's 2018. We need to make life easier, and that's where it all started. We heard a lot about the various tech trends and the different software solutions which are being provided. What are the key drivers, tech drivers, which keep you busy this year, last year, have been keeping you busy? I mean, high issues on your list that you want to implement. So regardless from your classical business, or regardless of your classical business model, what are the key tech drivers? Something that's very much on our radar is mobility. Taking everything to the mobiles. We started with the website classical on the desktop where you could do your search, etc. But things have changed much more quickly and gravitated to mobile screens. And these mobile screens have been the main driver of our product development. So whatever we develop, first of all, takes place on the smartphone, and then we scale it back to the desktop. Key driver of the past 2 years is big data and machine learning. Both understanding what a customer's worth is, what is their stage, in which travel stage are they when they enter our website? Is somebody coming to us from Instagram? Are they just inspired? Are they just curious, just browsing, want to get an impression of the destination? Or is it somebody who just entered Eiffel Tower tickets on Google, and then through our search we want to increase the conversion rate of these people? We are banking very much on machine learning, just to understand how we price it and how much we spend in order to get certain people onto our website. And apart from that, recommendations are very important. When they're on our website, is it somebody who's already been to Paris 10 times? Is it somebody who has a family there? Maybe Disneyland is more attractive, but when somebody is a business traveler, maybe they want to find out about wining and dining. So what is the context within which somebody does a search on our website? That's an important topic, important driver, and also long-term customer relationship management. So no customer tends to read every newsletter which you send out every week, which contains the same irrelevant quick pictures for you, but you need to come up with specific customized customer addresses with specific news. We no longer do this manually. We base this on data. Yesterday there was an interesting press release. Zalando laid off 250 marketers. I mean, this is something which we very much see in data analysis and machine learning. Based on that, I mean, this is what we invest a lot into. So we're moving away from a creative marketing guy who is like the Don Draper and decides everything very much product-based, and moving more towards a customer centricity, database customer centricity. I think it's not either or. It's not a binary decision. One thing can support the other. A strong brand will never disappear. A strong brand pitch, a strong brand mission is the hallmark of a strong brand DNA. We need more of that, not less. But at the same time, customers want to be more, get more individualized business propositions which are compelling, which are authentic, which they want to buy. And if you don't base that proposition on data-based solutions, then you will not be able to survive tomorrow. What about you, Patrick? It's the same situation with us. I mean, machine learning, handling big data, understanding within which stage a booker of a holiday apartment is. And it's a very research-intensive product, because usually people tend to go on a larger vacation when they book a travel home or a HomeToGo, usually summer vacation. And we want to understand where they are in the funnel. Are they at the beginning of the research? Are they already in the booking process? How far away are they from the conversion rate? So we need to understand where they are and offer the right features at the right point in time. I already explained it a minute ago. We work extensively on offering different features which can cater to different use cases. For instance, flexible search. Maybe the user says, we want to go somewhere else during the summer holidays. We're very flexible for 2 weeks. And this is how you get a bigger range, more offers. And that's a big challenge. Where are people flexible? Where are they interested in certain propositions? I mean, other people have a fixed leave from their work, so they only have a fixed window of time. So come up with a personalized solution, customized solution with the right product features is definitely one of our big challenges. It's highest on the list of priorities. And of course, we always need to keep an eye on the ball when it comes to mobile. However, the sea change is not quite as pronounced when it comes to mobile booking options in our industry. But anyway, we keep it on the radar. I think you built a marketplace. You were successful in building a marketplace with regard to a Cinderella topic. What is your success story based on? I mean, that's the dream of any startup. So from rags to riches, that's the jackpot question, $1 million question. What is the three-stage success recipe? Unfortunately, I can't give you an answer to that. I don't have a silver bullet, no panacea. Fundamentally, it's about offering the customer with something which they don't or can't buy right now in that form, in a way which makes their life easier, makes it easier for them to obtain certain products or services. I think Amazon broke the ground. Amazon understood that actually people will be happy if they get their books shipped to their doorstep instead of going to libraries or bookstores. So that's what it was all about. And we also understood that people look for activities more on their mobile phones, want to be able to book it, and want to be able to store the ticket on their smartphone. Here, our success story is to do very much with a market which was ready for digitization, migration to smartphone. In terms of timing, we had the bird advantage. We were the first ones who got it right. And we were able to get the right answer, business proposition to the platforms, like short-term attractions, and you can go and see the Eiffel Tower without having to queue, especially for families. And that's an important innovation in our market. We were the first ones which not only banked on the big coach operators, tour operators, but also the small ones who could offer niche products and which also got raving reviews from our customers. So it starts with vertical management and a tour, and it ends up with a street food tour through Bangkok. We were very successful, and as a result of that, both ends, the upper and the lower end of the market, got together very successfully. And something else that's a hallmark of a successful brand is that everybody is on board and working as a team. And your customers, your suppliers got tech support from you very much, right from the word go. They were under-digitized. I think another USP, that's right. Another USP which we had right from the word go was that we said, okay, we are going to build the marketplace, and not everybody of our competitors believed in that. But we also said we believe in crowd intelligence, in swarm intelligence. We believe in the diversity of the proposition. This is why we want to make it as easy for the providers to upload the content to our platform, to sell it on our platform. And we offer tools allowing them to do this. And then when we saw that the tool landscape is becoming more heterogeneous on our platform, we made connections to other systems. We are agnostics in that respect. It's very important that we have availability, that it can be booked straight away on the mobile phone. Last-minute bookings are possible, and that we always have the best rates and the latest rates for the customer. The most up-to-date rates. Malte, what about your success story? What was the key driver? So we are a two-sided marketplace with very heterogeneous partners on both sides. So the customers, for instance, the customer wants to buy a ticket, wants to know how they get from A to B. So it's a very heterogeneous market where it's very difficult to find out the right proposition and still gain a clear overview. On the other hand, we have a market side transportation companies. They're very heterogeneous. Malte Italia, Deutsche Bahn, SNCF, big players, up until small tour operators or coach operators in Spain, which partly don't have their own IT, which we could link reasonably or integrate reasonably. So here it's about coming up with the right product for both ends of the market, how we can generate value added, where lots of players have their own sales channels and not necessarily have to rely on a marketplace selling their ticket. And a success story is based on understanding both ends of the market, not just the consumer side, because of course it's super important, but also especially understand where the pain points are with regard to the providers. How can you offer value added to providers, to suppliers, which is attractive in the long run? Patrick? Similar approach? Yes. We too are a marketplace, but not like GetYourGuide. Because as a matter search, we combine all big partners like Fevo Direct and HomeAway in Germany, and we combine these partners up until small partners, which only have a few thousands of properties. And as a result of that, we were able to come up with the biggest portfolio in that area. We have more than 11 million propositions on our offer, so we are clearly, on our website, we are clearly the market leader in terms of homes and apartments. We have the biggest number, which you can have possibly on the globe, and of course that's always an advantage because the customer has the biggest choice from which to pick the right price, the right property, etc. But I already pointed it out. I mean, we are not quite as professionalized as the hotel industry in our industry. So we had to invest a lot in order to bring our partners up to scratch through customer integration. We don't really have standards. There are 1 or 2 standards, but it's not just 2 or 3 systems which you need to apply. All in all, we integrated more than 250 partners. Most of them are based on our standard interface, but a lot of them is also based on the customs interfaces which we created. And that's the value added which we offer. And it's definitely the fuel behind our exponential growth in recent years. Patrick, I start with you. Moving away from your individual business model, are there any challenges for Berlin as a startup hub, as we call it?
I think Berlin is a very popular location and a very good location. And I started with Rocket, and that's why I know it well. But it's also a very good place to find good talent. There are many internationals, and it is a city that attracts people from not only Europe, but all over the world. The cost of living are still very affordable if you compare it to other countries. Perhaps the only thing that is a bit of a problem is that there is a certain lack of office space. Real estate is just becoming more expensive. Rents are on the rise. And it thus becomes more difficult to find office space. And the city is not very good at catching up with that. And then sometimes with red tape, it would be nice to be able to cut that a bit, to speed up certain processes, which is something that's easy in other countries. But I think in general, I think Berlin is the best location for our headquarters. Malte, what do you think? Oh yeah, I agree. It's a very attractive place. It's a nice place to live, and it's easy to bring people here. Our team comes from 45 different countries, and some of them moved to Berlin, and many of them are willing and interested in coming to Berlin because there's such high quality of life. And then there is this fact that Berlin is still a bit chaotic, a bit anarchic. It's not complete. And so it's the right type of environment for companies that are also still in the process of getting built up. And I can only agree with Patrick. One of the great benefits of Berlin that we had in the past was that there was very good and very affordable office space, and we are slowly losing that. It's getting more difficult, and it's also getting more expensive. And it would be a shame if we were to lose that, because every ecosystem that can be created with this atmosphere needs these startups. Of course, not only very few of them will survive, but you need that critical mass of people who are interested in coming here and who want to build up something. And it would be a shame if that got lost. Johannes, is it true that Berlin constantly renews itself and is never quite finished? I don't know whether you would call it permanent better. Perhaps you call it permanent better in the startup scene, but I think the city simply has to become more professional and basically follow the example of these startups that are getting more professional. We have, unfortunately, very incompetent leadership in this city, and they don't do any justice to what happens in the realm of startups. And then there is another issue that has to be solved, and it's very pressing in Berlin and also in other German cities, and that is that we have an unbearable lack of skilled people. And at GetYourGuide, we find it impossible to find product designers, IT people. It's simply impossible to meet our demand in this sphere. And not only the price of office space is increasing, but also the price for staff, because there is such a shortage. And here we need to train people, we need to get people here, but nobody is doing that. And it makes me very sad that this is lacking so much. And at the same time, it's made so difficult for internationals to come to Germany. Yes, I think these are all phenomena that I see in this industry. And that's about HR, staff development. And as you said, there is partly this problem that there isn't even the right talent around that you can develop. Then I expect that there is also a certain churn, because there are new startups being created all the time. And now we have almost a new government in place, and there will be a state minister for digitization as part of the Chancellor's office. Do you think that this will lead to improvements, and that this topic of permanent learning might be promoted? Or what else could that state minister be doing? I think this is taking the right step into the right direction, and we see from the press response to that, we could say, minor innovation, that it is very urgent. I don't think it's enough, however. I think we've missed the boat such a long time ago that we can't catch up in just one legislative term. I can only hope that the new government realizes that this should be a political priority, that there is more support for training, and that our jobs will be safe in the future because we have the right people in the right professions. So the government should make sure that investment can take place. All of our companies are based on VC funding, and all that VC funding comes from the US or from Asia. And that's a real shame. Hopefully that will change. And thirdly, the question is how we can improve European harmonization in such a way that there can be European champions and not just US champions or Asian champions. And I hope that this will be a political priority. Would you also like to make a statement on the new political setup? I can only agree with Johannes. I think we've all been through that very difficult experience that when you try to raise funds and you realize that there is such a lot of bureaucracy in your way. You wait for registration of a funding round for weeks, and then the clerk at the court is on holiday or is ill, and you have to meet deadlines, and you get into all these time problems. And I think there is a whole list of topics that should be dealt with. It should be made much easier to invest also for business angels so that new startups can be created and funded. The less bureaucracy, the better it would be, especially in the beginning when you have to start off and comply with all the regulation. I think, for example, it would be great if Berlin or other cities had something like key account managers for startups and small companies so that they get all the support from experienced people, because they keep reinventing the wheel. When you start a company, you have loads of questions. And if you don't have experience with, for example, an incubator like Rocket, like I had, it's very hard because people always start from scratch. Here, the state could offer much more and provide support. Malte, what has been your experience with state support? I think there's quite a learning curve you have to go through. When you want to recruit international people, you're applying for work permits. It's all very difficult, but you learn, and as you grow, it also becomes a bit easier. However, when you start, and if it's your first company, these can be major obstacles. And not much would have to be changed. It's about little things, that there's somebody at the immigration office who speaks something else than German would help. Or at the office in charge of work permits should be able to speak another language, or should be a bit more generous when it comes to recognizing degrees. The fact that it's now on the political agenda, this topic of digitization, is an important step, but the question remains what exactly the minister in charge can do and achieve. Right now, it seems that all the big topics like broadband development will still be under the remit of other ministries, and it's very questionable whether they will be able to accelerate this. And you know, when you travel a lot and to countries where you don't expect they're more developed than Germany, you realize that internet connections are a real problem in Germany. I don't know where we rank, but certainly not among the top 10 in Europe. And this is an infrastructure problem. It's a major drawback. And the government should do much more to improve this. But at the same time, it's also up to us. We accept things that we wouldn't accept elsewhere. If our highways were as bad as our internet connections, and if there would be speed limits everywhere, there would be a public revolt. At the same time, we accept that in some parts of Berlin you have very bad connection, and in rural areas none. Yes, it's very interesting. Everybody talks about data and the value of data. But then the thing is, I take a train from Lake Constance to Stuttgart, and on half of that trip, I can't even make a phone call, which is certainly nice for the people traveling with you. Well, let's say, I think we rank 32nd in terms of broadband development, just before Greece. But we are far from trailblazers in this, although we all believe that this should be a standard, because otherwise there will no be digitization. Now, dear audience, it's a unique opportunity to have these three wonderful people on this stage. So I'm asking you, are there any questions to our guests? If not, I have at least one more question, but there is somebody from the audience.
So, eine Frage hatte ich an GetYourGuide.
I have a question to GetYourGuide. I saw your platform and I've been using it for a couple of years. The cities in Germany, there are 4 or 5 major destinations, and then you have 700, 800 activities per city for Berlin or for Munich. But what about Eisenach, Eisleben, Wittenberg, the cities where Martin Luther was once lived? What about them? You know, we are still in a very early stage of development. And we are a company that still grows very quickly and that has to prioritize. From a global point of view, let's say for pan-European tourism, cities like Rome, Paris, London, Barcelona, and others account for most of the market. That's where most people want to go. And once we manage to get people into the city and they use GetYourGuide, they normally use it again. And this is why we need a very broad range of offerings to offer a customized activity. We haven't exploited all of our strength domestically, for example, in Germany or in France. But we are still focused very much on the cross-border traveler. But what you're saying, in our own market, the 150 billion euro market, there are a lot of white spots. And this would be weekend trips. This could be meaning a Berliner doing activities in Berlin. But this is all potential that we can use in the next 10 years and even going beyond that. However, in what we do now, it is not a priority. But of course, you name it, it's a very important potential. Any other questions? Then I have a very special question to all of you. In the last few months, there's been a debate about whether our business world is so dominated by men. And now on this whole day, I think I've seen two ladies representing startup companies on this stage. And you're boys too. So what is your take on this? What about gender? Do you need a quota for startups? I mean, if not you, then who? No, I don't think there should be a quota. It is so difficult already to find the very best people for our open positions. Putting up more restrictions would make it more difficult and not help anybody. We have a very high share of women, and the fact that there are only 3, actually 4 men on this stage is a problem. You're right. Perhaps you should choose different companies next time. But we have a women's quota of 40%, although of course they work at very different levels. But it's a problem that a single company cannot solve. It's also related to the applications that we receive. It's the same for us. We have a lot of women in the non-developer part of our company. But we don't have any quotas or restrictions for who we hire. It's all about the skill set. And this is why a quota would be a problem. And that cuts both ways. I wouldn't want to have a men's quota, and neither would I want a women's quota. We are just pragmatic and look for the best candidate for the job at hand. But if you look at who applies for a developer's position, the fact is that the majority of them are male. But we are all tech-driven companies. And so again, it would be difficult to impose a quota. But of course, we'd be delighted if we had applications 50-50 from men and women. But you know what? I've really changed my mind on this. In the past, I used to think that quotas are nonsense and that this topic is overrated. But now I do see that it's very difficult for women in the world of work to have a career, a good career, and also, for example, have a family at the same time. And in any case, in our company, internally, we have certain targets for how many women we want to hire at which leadership or executive level, because it doesn't happen organically. And we want to have such an approach for the board level as well, because we recruit women for that level. And at the same time, we try to be more family friendly, grant parental leave to people going up to a year. And we have a very family-friendly system in Germany, but it should be an opportunity for both men and women. And we see that male colleagues are now going on parental leave, even for extended periods. So I think we have to be open-minded about this. And yes, more progressive. And I think we as men and the one in the leadership positions have special responsibility to make sure it happens. Thank you. Thank you for your statements. A last word on the 2018 ITB. Did you like it? What was your highlight?
Es hat mir schon gut gefallen für uns. Ich glaube.
So we really liked it. And one of our highlights is definitely that we're always able to meet a couple of our partners personally. So, well, that sounds like a modest highlight, but for us as a company, it's so exciting to see that the biggest travel industry trade show takes place in Berlin. For us, ITB is very, very relevant. We're in international marketplace. There's in more than 2,000 destinations, and there is no other trade show which brings together so many partners. And for me, it's just a good, excellent reality check where we are in terms of destinations, how we cooperate with our partners. And me, I'm always very interested in getting unfiltered, direct feedback and it's a real luxury to get direct feedback in the city, and at an event where everybody comes with whom we deal in Europe. I'm always a bit sorry that we're here in March, and I feel sorry for the French people and the Italian people, the people from the UK always come to visit Berlin in inclement weather conditions. I mean, it would be great to have it in summer. Well, anyway. Well, we've already had sunny ITBs in the background. I would like to thank the speakers. I would like to thank the audience who stayed on. And now we'll have a wonderful network event. I'll ask my colleague.